Hi, I'm John Spencer Ellis, and welcome to your personal fitness chef training program. With me today is Master Chef Marie. How you doing?
Fine. How are you, John?
Fantastic. This is your domain. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. But before we go on, I'd like you to put an apron on.
I'm official.
Yes, you sure are. And we are going to wash our hands because it's very important for a personal chef to keep clean. And also we're going to check that you do not have any rings on your finger, and if you do, you have to remove them.
Okay.
And a watch, which I have, so I'm going to put it away, because what happens is food can get in, John, and will fall back into your food that you're preparing and possibly create bacteria contamination, which we want to avoid as much as possible.
Okay.
So let's learn a little bit how to wash our hands. First, we wet a little bit our hand. It's so simple, basic. Here. And then we soap a lot, and we soap for quite a while. We don't want to rush it. We have to kill any bacteria. You want the water to be warm, but more on the really hot side, so it kills any bacteria here. All right.
All right, it's my turn.
Not yet.
Oh.
Now I have to do my nails.
Okay.
Now I have to do my nails. It's a two-step process. So you want the blue or the...
I'm going to take the blue scrubby. You can take the pink one.
No wonder. Okay, now I'm going to really clean my nail, because food gets and the bacteria gets under my nails. So I want to take my time too and do this very well. Just like that.
Okay. Almost like a surgeon.
Yeah. You know, that's the best thing to avoid any problem. And then you can rinse yourself very well again. Now I get very nice clean hand, and I need to dry them with a very clean towel. Not been used before. Now you can go, John. Go ahead.
All right, I'm ready.
We're ready to go to work.
It is nice and warm. Okay, the hands first.
Yeah.
And then I get to use my blue brush.
Now you get your blue
brush.
The boys, the real man one.
All right. Oops, I gotta get some soap here. That's what's gonna make it work.
That's right.
It actually feels good.
And this should be done every single time before you start working. Anytime you go back to the bathroom, let's say you go to the bathroom, you know, you wash your hand in the bathroom, right? And you come back, you think, oh, my hands are clean. No, 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 no. We go through that process again, because you don't know who touched that door that you just opened.
That's right.
So you gotta wash your hand no matter what, every time you leave the room, the kitchen.
Okay.
Okay, next we're gonna talk about a little knife a little bit here.
Okay.
Very short. We will talk more deeply about knife later on to explain what each knife are, and what they are used for.
And how to sharpen them?
How to sharpen. We're going to sharpen this because I like to sharpen my knife every time I start to work.
Okay.
Why we do this is to avoid any injuries. When you have a dull knife, you'll slip, or it will probably finish on your fingers.
And I bet a lot of people would think that having a sharp knife would be more dangerous, but that makes sense the way you explain it.
Yes, it'll go easier through the food rather than slipping away from you. So let's get here a steel, what we call a steel. Right here is basically a metal bar. Okay, very simply a metal bar.
Okay.
And we'll go through the technique later on, but I'm just going to sharpen it quickly. There's various techniques.
I'm going to stand back. All right, go for it.
Don't worry, I'm not going to fly the knife away.
I trust you.
I'm just going to do it 4 times, no more than that. There's different techniques, and we'll do that later on. After you use it, you always want to rinse your knife. Why, do you think?
Particles.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we clean the knife.
I'm halfway to being a personal fitness chef already.
You're very good. You don't need to soap. You just rinse it, and then you want to dry it, possibly. Not with the hand towels anymore.
Okay.
But maybe a paper towel. Paper towel. Okay. And now we're ready pretty much to go to work.
Well, Chef Marie, I'm excited about this today. Tell me what you're going to fix for us.
Well, today we are going to do some healthy cooking.
Excellent.
We're going to have a broccoli soup without no fat added. And we're going to make a nice New York steak with a pepper sauce. We're also going to make some nice blanched vegetable. Today would be green beans. And we'll make some roasted potato in the oven, basically baked, with very little fat also, and some garlic. And finally, a nice fruit salad.
I'm excited.
Done after that. That's a lot of work.
I know the crew's excited. They're ready to go.
Now, in order to really prepare this menu, which could be a perfect menu for somebody, for a family of 4 or 6, we're going to cook for 6 people today.
Okay.
There's a certain technique involved which I think will be very important for the personal chef to understand.
Okay.
It reviews a lot of the recipe and include a lot of the recipe that I have in the manual. Also, there's a matter of organization, which is very important. People have the art of complicating their life, and I have the art of making it simple for people. And it's very important because then cooking becomes very pleasant. So what you need to think of is what takes the longest to cook first. What do you think? Is the steak going to cook fast or the potato going to take longer?
Well, it depends on the size of the potato, doesn't it?
That's true too. Very important. Well, we got some potato here, and they don't seem too small, do they?
No,
they're
those are
fairly
pretty good
big,
size.
so it's going to take a while to cook them. So first what we're going to do is we're going to cut them down to a more reasonable size so they can cook faster.
Okay.
Now you want to make sure that you cook them at the right temperature, and we set the oven already at 450, right here, 450. Okay. Most oven will take about 10-20 minutes to get to the right temperature.
Okay.
I had it already at 375, which is a standard heat, so it'll come up there within 10 minutes, and I'll be ready when this is going to be ready. So what I use is just a cooking sheet. It's very simple. You can use Pyrex or other ingredient, but I like to use those because they're easy to maintain, clean, fast, and I have a lot of purpose. I can do cookies, all kind of different things. So now the potato here has different form. You've noticed there's a big one and a small one. What you want to make sure is when you cut them, you end up with the same size. So what I look at most of the time is the smaller one first.
Okay.
Okay, that one is going to tell me then which cut I'm going to have, okay? And I don't know if you like your potato pretty large or a smaller cut.
I would say probably half to a quarter the size that is right now.
Half to a quarter of that. Okay, so we're going to go just like that. See,
I like to have my meal manageable.
You don't have to rush through this.
Okay.
You know, just cut it to what you like. Somehow I like them a little larger, but that's your style. Here we go. I cleaned the potato very well before I did this, okay? With just water. Just water? And, yeah.
And
a little brush you can use.
Is there a particular temperature of the water that works better than another?
No, cold. Cold water.
Okay.
Always cold water.
Okay.
One thing you have to know about potatoes, see this is too big, is you don't want to put them in the hot water.
And the reason?
Well, it makes them kind of mushy. You cook them. You cook them.
All right.
So you don't want to do that. All right, so now we know pretty much this time. I'm going to cut this a little more this way. See, I have that end piece here.
Well, that knife is sharp, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I can cut my fingers through very quickly if I don't pay attention. So there we go.
Well, please pay attention.
I will.
Those are valuable fingers.
No bit. Like a piano player, that's for sure. Okay, so we go again here. This is the hard work for the potato. Everything else is very easy.
It's on autopilot after this point.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't really take long to do this. This is probably the easiest way to do potato. It's faster than doing mashed potato because you got to peel the potato. You got to do a lot more work. So it's an easy way if you don't have much time at home and everybody's so busy, you know. You'll see it'll take me, what, 5 minutes? Not even that.
You're moving fast.
Now you notice I like to remove everything off my way immediately.
Right.
You can push it on the side if you want, but I like my board clear.
And is that for safety as well?
For me it is. It might not be for everybody, whatever style. You know, it's how you feel is more important. If you're comfortable this way, do it this way. If you're not, I might spend maybe a couple of seconds more by going here more often, but it's no big deal. So now I prepared here some oil, flavored oil. This is the way you can avoid to burn your potato with flavoring that you have.
Okay.
If you start to put some parsley in there and also some garlic, it will burn in the oven. Okay, after about 20 minutes it'll start to burn, so it'll give a flavor to your potato. You don't want that. So what I do is I flavor within maybe, you can do that 2 or 3 days ahead.
Oh really?
So it really has a nice flavor smell.
Yeah, I like it.
So what do you smell in there?
An oil of some sort. I don't know what that is.
It's olive oil. I like to use olive oil a lot because it has a nice flavor. You can use canola oil also, either one. In case of olive oil, you use the light one for baking because the darker color, the first press, would burn a little faster.
Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, canola oil is good. And it's already flavored with garlic and some fine herbs. I like to use fine herbs to flavor a lot my potatoes. So you don't have to worry about flavoring this. Now I'm going to use 2 tablespoons for all this. So think of how many tablespoons of fat I have here for
that really isn't that much.
6 people. Yeah. And this is where it comes kind of a fun part here. Now I can keep this away. I can store it in the fridge for up to a week without a problem.
Okay.
Okay, after that you remove the ingredients in the bottom, pass it through a sieve or something like that, and you can keep your oil for quite a while. Okay? Now is the fun part here. In order to flavor kind of evenly, you're going to mix it. You're going to put your hand to it. In the kitchen, a lot of people don't like to do this, but personal chef, believe me, it's the best tool is your hands. So that's why also you have to have them clean. You can use plastic glove kind of up. This will not go. That's trash if it falls away. You see how the oil distributed very easily.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. That's it. That's all you need. And it's also on the bottom, as you noticed, which will allow the potato to brown faster. Now I like to put them, that's my kind of style. I like to put the potato upside down like this, and then I move them during the cooking so they really cook evenly. Okay? Okay, now we're ready pretty much to put them in the oven.
It's already starting to get the aroma going.
Huh?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so they go in there, and we're going to put them in the medium of the oven, medium size here. So we're going to go for 45 minutes.
Okay.
I like to use a timer because 45 minutes, too many things going to go on, and I'm not sure. So this will remind me when they should be ready. So now that's your potato. See, that's easy. Next thing we want to do is start to boil some water.
Okay.
Let's boil water. That will be for our vegetable. It takes a while. I put quite a bit of water here because we got quite a bit of green beans to prepare.
Several cups.
Yes, several cups. And I like for green beans to add some sea salt.
Okay.
The sea salt will bring the color of the green bean very dark, and it makes it more appetizing. It doesn't add anything other than just the color.
What is the fundamental difference between sea salt and your typical table salt?
Well, the table salt is processed. Okay. Where the sea salt is more natural. Okay. It also flavors a lot more.
It looks like the granules are a little different.
Yes, it's thicker as far as the granule. The kosher salt is similar to a sea salt.
Okay.
And it's excellent to use too. You would not use that to just finish a sauce because it takes a while to melt because of the size.
Okay.
But for some things that cook for quite a while, you do. Now, adding salt in this does not mean my green beans are going to be salty. It doesn't work that way. The salt is going to allow the water to get much higher boiling point. But the salt will not get in the food. Now, I prepare those green beans a little bit ahead because that takes a little while, you know.
Yeah.
Takes me
I'm going
about
to come
5
around
minutes.
the other side here. You keep going.
Sure. And green bean comes this way. I like them kind of long, nice even form, as you notice. Most of them are about even.
Yes, very uniform.
And there's 2 parts at the end here that we don't want. It's kind of fibrous, and we don't want to eat it, so we remove it.
Okay.
I use a paring knife. It's easy. You just cut that on. That's it. That's all it takes. You can do a few at a time. So what I do is I put 4 here.
You line them up.
I line them up and go like that. Because when you have 20 pounds of...
That's a lot.
That's a lot. This is pretty much ready to go. So as soon as my water boils, I can just go ahead and put them in there.
It's trying. It's not there yet.
No, it'll take a little while. What we can do, prepare meanwhile what we call an ice bucket of water, basically.
Okay.
Because what I do is after they're pretty much blanched in there and cooked, I throw them immediately in ice cold water to stop the cooking. If you leave them out in your sink and rinse with a little water only, it basically does not stop the cooking.
Does it keep them crisp?
It will keep them crisp by putting them in ice cold water, exactly. And then you can reheat them in the microwave or whatever, you know, saute if you want with some oil, when you're ready to eat. And it takes just a few minutes. This water is about to boil, see?
Yes, it is.
So it doesn't take that long. Meanwhile, we have to consider to start our soup. So we have our broccoli here. We're going to make that broccoli soup. By the way, you might want to know the ingredients.
I do.
There's 2 pounds of broccoli in the soup for 6 to 8 people. There's about 1 onion, 8 ounce. A large onion like this is about 8 ounce. And then you have 2 garlic cloves that we're going to put in there. We have a potato, and a larger potato, which is about 8 ounces of potato. This would be my thickener. Now let's continue trimming our broccoli, getting ready. It doesn't matter, you know, much the size here for the head. I like to keep it a little small. They're going to fall apart.
So what will be the inconsistency when it's served? How thick will it be?
Well, most people have eaten soup in general before. Most soup can be the consistency of, let's say, a thick cream. Okay. Some people like it actually thinner. So the best thing I recommend to personal chefs is always ask their client, how do you like your soup, thick or thin? Are you concerned about the fat in your soup? Do you want me to put a little cream in it to make it richer and thicker? So we got all our broccoli ready. Now our water, as you notice, is boiling.
It is.
Why don't we throw quickly those green beans?
I'm going to step out of your way here.
There. I'm going to throw them right in there. Now I'm going to prepare the garlic. I push down to make it easier to remove the skin. It makes it soft. Okay, then you remove each hand. I cut it off just like that.
Okay.
Simply.
Just like the beans?
Just like that. And then it gets off right away. Now you can buy garlic that is peeled already. Be aware, however, that they have a little flavor, a little stronger smell. Because after you leave them out to the air like that, they oxidize a little bit. So they give a little flavor. But it's not that bad. If there's a bad part to it, always remove it, because it could give a bad taste to the food. It's not much, so I'm going to just mince this a little bit. It doesn't matter to be even here, because it's going to get pureed, so I don't really matter. Here we go. I'll put that aside here. Now I'm going to prepare my potato. It doesn't matter, it's a thickener, so I don't care really the size.
And the thickener, you just want to, again, we're talking about that consistency.
Right. So
more potato?
More potato will make it a lot thicker.
More thick?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if you want, you can substitute rice. If you don't want potato, you can substitute rice. And basically, it will do the same thing. It'll thicken your puree. This is a nice way. Or you can use cornstarch if you don't want starch at all. So by the time you go through the process, but use a lot less liquid when you start. Because you're going to just thicken with cornstarch.
I see.
Or maize, whatever you might want. There we go. So it's ready. See, we've done most of our prep. The last one is the onion. We need a little room, huh, don't we? Okay, let's see. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put that right here. And now we're going to...
Now, do we need to stir the green beans?
No, you don't need to bother.
They just do their own thing?
They just do their own thing. You can leave it alone. And they'll cook just enough. Green beans takes a little while to cook, okay? So we're going to finish our onion right here. And then we're going to go check on those green beans, huh?
Boy, that garlic just got to my eyes.
Uh-oh. Well, onion...
I'm okay. I notice it.
I think it's the onion, John. The onion will make you cry. You want a trick not to cry? There's 2 ways. First, don't peel onion. That's one way. The other way is to, after you clean them from their outside, you put them under cold water. And it won't splash as much of their liquid. The other way, you can freeze them, but be careful when you cut them because it can get a little rough to cut properly. So now we're going to put this soup together, John.
Okay.
But then again, I remember those green beans that you forgot.
I remember.
Yeah, we're going to basically get rid of the water. And I prepare ice water here, so we can immediately stop the cooking, okay? So what I need to do is first get rid of the water. Oh, that's hot. You don't do that.
Put on that mitt.
Put on that mitt. Let me get rid of this boiling hot water. There we go.
Man, that is steaming.
It is steaming hot. And then I'm throwing them in here to immediately stop them from cooking any further. There. And I leave them there for quite a while. It doesn't matter. They're going to stop cooking. So, to do our broccoli soup, again, we have most of our ingredients ready. But I want to talk a little bit about chicken stock here.
Okay, please.
There's a lot of different chicken stock out there, but for personal chef, it's very important to look for very low sodium. Unfortunately, they still don't have any without salt. because it's a preservative.
Preservative.
You know, so they need to have salt in there. But choose the least salt possible that you can find, and also the least chemical preservative, coloring that you can find. Read the labels. And there's a couple of companies who do really good chicken stock out there. Nice flavor.
Okay.
So I have one of those companies, and we're going to use it. It's very simple. Again, it's a different it's a different technique than what you would normally see on a regular recipe that you could find over the internet. Most of them would come with a little fat, oil or butter and some flour, make some kind of a roux, what we call a roux mixture, and that's what makes the fat in those soup. We don't do this here for the personal fitness chef. We want to keep our clients healthy. And so we're just going to basically put that chicken stock in here. Here we go. And I have about 6 to 8 cups. I start with 6 cups because sometimes I find that I have too much liquid, considering I don't want to use too much.
You can always add more later if you need to.
I can add more later,
right.
Exactly. So that's what I like to do. And I'm just going to add everything here. See how simple it is. And it's going to flavor as much as if you had previously sauteed your vegetable with oil. You don't need to do this. You're still going to bring a lot of nice flavor. Now, we have our broccoli ready. I'm going to add my broccoli too. I'm not worried about how much we're cooking yet because we basically want everything to become puree. It's going to become a puree. So, see, I have just about enough liquid. I might use a little more. I'm going to keep some on the side. Good. At least maybe about 1/3. And there's a reason for this. Yes, I'm going to add, you see, a little bit to cover. Make sure it's totally covered. So I'm going to add a little bit more here. The reason I keep some on the side is basically to, there we go, to have some crunchiness to the soup at the end. It could be all puree if you prefer, of course, you can do that. But I like to have pieces in there afterwards. So we're just going to cook this until it's totally mushy, so it will be easier to mash afterwards. I do not add any salt, as you noticed, because it's already very salty, to me at least. And nobody needs that much salt in their food.
We get plenty in our diet.
We get plenty.
That's right.
What I'm going to add, however, is a little pepper and some seasoning. So I'm going to put basically a little Italian seasoning, very basic.
Now, is this your own special blend?
It is my mix. I usually buy, it's cheaper to buy various type of herbs and make your own mix afterwards. Or you can go to a major supplier and buy big quantity. But be aware that those herbs don't keep too long. They lose their strength, flavor after maybe 3 months.
What's the best way to preserve the flavor within your ability?
To keep them in a dry place, not close to heat, away from light, preferably far away from your oven. I see too many times the herbs sitting right next to that heat source, and it's not good for them. So maybe more towards your refrigeration area, but away from the fridge too, because the fridge brings heat also
from the outside.
From the outside. Right. So somewhere I put 2 pinch. I talk a lot in pinch because it's very easy. You just go like this. It's a pinch. Is
there an equivalency to a pinch? I mean, is it half a teaspoon?
Some people have tried to figure that out.
Depends how big their fingers are, I guess.
Yeah, it depends how big your fingers are, but it really doesn't matter that much. It's just to bring a little flavor, some kind of if you put too much, it will be overwhelming and that won't be good. So you always put less than what you should be putting at first, because you can always add, but you can't remove.
And this is just what that you
This is pepper
just
here.
Plain pepper, okay.
Just plain pepper,
right.
2 pinch, that's all. Again, we're gonna mix a little bit here. Make sure it gets mixed into the chicken stock. And that's it. That's very simple, John, isn't it? We're gonna check our potatoes here.
Okay.
How long it's been?
It has been.
See, we're about, yeah. Oh.
We have 12 minutes left,
12
is that
minutes.
what that says?
Something in that. No, that doesn't sound quite right, but let's check them out. What we want is nice golden brown anyway. You see they're starting to get a little bit nice and
Yeah, on the edges.
Goldy on the edge. So I'm going to just mix them a little bit. It's getting very hot at that point, so you don't want to put your hand anymore there. So you want to just move them. Why I do this also is to make sure they don't stick too much to the pan. And it will happen. It will happen. So just make sure when you mix them, just not to destroy them too much. All right. See? That also makes the oil that was on the bottom again and keep them a little more crunchy that way.
Boy, that really smells good.
And moisture a little bit more the potato. Okay, we're going to put them back.
Step
And we shake a little bit. So see how
even it out?
Even it out. And we're going to put them back in there to continue cooking.
And again, you have the oven at what,
I have right now at 450.
450, okay.
Now if you have less and smaller size, I go to 425 because it would burn too fast.
Right.
But for that kind of size, 450 is pretty good. So let's remove our green beans from that ice and put them in a plate.
All right.
Yeah, we can use this one. Okay. We can also pass them through a sieve if you like. But this is convenient for me right here. We can dry them up a little bit after with a paper towel. That's fine. Okay, so we're going to leave this over here. Now what you can do later on to this is a lot of things. You can serve them like this if you're concerned with your health. What I do is just have the green beans and use a little lemon, slice it in half and spread it over.
I like lemon on everything.
And it tastes very good. And lemon is good for your health. It helps a lot to eliminate a lot of bad bacteria that we can have in our system, unfortunately. What you also can do is add a little garlic. What I do is I, again, juice my lemon, put garlic in the juice. Again, you don't have to saute it necessarily to bring the flavor out. When you saute garlic or you bake it, that's another way you can do it, is put the whole clove. If you take a clove and put the whole clove untouched, like this in the oven, for about 30 minutes to an hour. Depends how soft you like it. And then you cut it in half in the middle. Then you'll see all the meat inside. And you remove it with a spoon, and it's already very strong flavor. It's like roasted almost. And you can mix it with lemon juice or other liquid, even oil. So if you can have a little bit of fat, then what I would do is saute them again in a little bit of olive oil. Then I would add a little garlic, a little shallot or onion with it if you like. Some people put slivered almond. That's another possibility. I would saute or in the oven again, grill my almond, so it emphasizes the flavor even more. So
that
we're boiling
soup is
now.
taking shape.
We're boiling, and what's happening here is I want everything to fall apart, and that's the purpose of this puree here, basically, or cream soup. Puree and cream soup in some ways are very similar. The difference is the puree has very little fat, where the cream is made with more fat. A puree can be finished with some cream also. A lot of good puree are done that way. But again, for the personal fitness chef who is concerned more about health and how much calories in their food, this is a very good way to prepare a soup without fat. So we're going to let this cook, and we're going to now start to worry a little bit. I think we're done with this. Okay. Worry about our meat. We're going to cook.
Should I get it for you?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
So we got our potato, we got our soup going, we got our vegetable ready to reheat anytime. We can microwave them.
On the cutting board?
Right there.
Okay.
Now
I'll make sure I follow protocol.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any meat that would touch the board would have to be cleaned right after. There is different color board to avoid what we call cross-contamination. It's a major problem, and you have to be very, very strict with yourself when you do this. You have to respect the rule, because if I were to cut on this board right after I put my meat on it, which I'm going to do, and suddenly I decide I want to go and put my broccoli back on there and cut it smaller.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Okay.
Major problem here, major contamination, cross-contamination. So what I might do is have another board ready, to do something that I might need to do certainly, okay? But not use the one I'm using. Fish, meat, chicken. Chicken, major problem too. So we have some nice piece of meat, and what I'm looking in here when I purchase my meat is the marbling. What we call marbling is those.
Yeah, describe that for me.
Right, the marbling is those. You see those little fat lines.
Yeah.
This is what's going to keep the meat tender.
Oh, really?
Okay. The more, not so good because then you have too much fat.
Right.
So you don't want that either. So I just want enough. You see, regular places here and there. That's good enough to keep my meat tender. Now, what I'm going to teach you here is my method. A lot of chefs would argue this, but I'm very strongly positioned on this, and I want your personal chef to understand why I'm going to tell you you should do it too. I do not want to salt my meat at this point. Most chefs will go salt, pepper, all this. I do not want to do this because I do believe firmly, and I've experimented this many times, that when you put salt, what is the role of salt? Salt brings water out. So what it does to me, it dries out my meat. So I don't want that. I want my meat to stay tender.
That makes sense.
So I will add the salt after I'm done cooking it. Of course I will. But not before I cook it. No need to bring the juice more out. So I'm just going to flavor it with basically some pepper. And I'm not going to put the herbs either at this point because when I'm sauteing this meat, I don't want the herb to burn because it will flavor and burn. Now this is for just steak. This will not be true if you do stew, that kind of thing. That's a different story. But in this case, because I want to avoid all the time in my cooking to bring any burning flavor, any. Because what I want to emphasize is the flavor of the meat and the flavor of the sauce. Nothing else should come and damage that.
Ah!
Somebody!
Time is up.
See, that's so great about this. Now we're going to check if it needs a little more or if it's good enough. Now, you see, I think we need a little more, John.
They certainly don't look overdone. They could probably use a bit more.
Now they're getting a little crunchy. If you can feel it.
I can hear the difference.
Yes, they're getting a little crunchy, but then they can use a little more. Now each oven is going to work differently, and some will work faster. In your case, I think your oven just needs a little more time to make things cooked. So we're going to put it back again and check in the 10 minutes. Again, it's safe to check rather than leaving it without checking and burning it. It doesn't hurt to check. And we're going to put 10 minutes again. All right. Now our soup, let's see if our broccoli. What you want to check here for doneness is the potato and the hard part of the broccoli. What I'm talking about is, remember I put the trunk of the broccoli in it?
Yes.
Okay. That's the hard part. That's the fibrous part. But it has a lot of vitamin, a lot of good things. But it takes longer to cook, of course, than the puree of the broccoli. So potato, you see, I can put my knife through easily. They're almost splitting, so it's pretty good. It's getting there. Now let's find a good trunk piece here. There, we got a couple here, right there. And I still have resistance, so I'm going to wait a little bit more. So we'll wait a little more. We can prepare this. Let's do a little pepper. Now, how much pepper you put depends how much your clients would like.
I guess we should ask the crew today.
Yeah, really, guys.
What do you think?
We want spicy, but not too much. Okay, all right.
Sounds good.
So we're going to put a little bit even. Again, I'm using the pinch technique here. Right
now
there.
we have 1, 2, 3, 6 pieces.
6 pieces.
And so you're doing about a pinch a piece.
Yeah, a pinch and a half. Depends, you know. You try to move around. You know, you see the distance I have between? It's spread easier than if I'm here, it's going to fall in the same spot.
Right, okay.
So you want to be a little higher. You don't have to rush through this. You know, it takes a minute, big deal. I could do it really fast, but I'm not going to do that. I want you to see. Now, don't go like this either, because too much is going to fall on it, so we don't want to do that.
If you eat that clump of pepper too, you're going to know it.
Right. Now, what you can do is turn it upside down and do the other side. Well, I don't do this, and here's why. because when you turn it upside down, your salt's going to end up on this board here and not going to stay on my meat. So what I'm going to do is when I'm going to cook this, I'll put the pepper side first to saute, then pepper the top afterwards, so I don't lose anything. That's pretty much it. Now, if you were to put some different flavor, again, some people might use some rub, you know, pepper type rub, or spicy Cajun, that type. Do the same thing, you know. Put enough there, but tap it in, because it won't stay otherwise. Rub has to be pushed in. You might have to put a little oil even to make sure that it sticks to it.
Oil beforehand?
Beforehand,
okay.
A little bit.
And tell everyone again, the cut of meat we have today is what?
It's a New York steak cut.
Okay.
It's very tender, but not as tender as a filet mignon, for example. It's also one of the leaner ones, less fat than if you choose more different part from the cow.
It's pretty thick too.
It's a thick one, yes. Yeah. It's New York steak are known for their length and also their thickness, but it's very difficult to get them very thin, very thin. That's the specific look of a New York steak.
So then I'm guessing our challenge is, because it's thicker, is to make sure that we get it cooked evenly and time it out just
Absolutely,
right.
And you're going to have a technique to do this, which involves the oven. If you plan on cooking it on top here by itself, it will not basically cook properly. You'll have the outside kind of burn and the middle raw. It's a little different than a barbecue. You have to consider it's a little different way of cooking here. And the chef in the industry use that a lot. Is they use their oven. They basically sear, what we call sear, the outside of the meat and then finish them in the oven. I think here we might be kind of ready.
Well, the consistency is definitely changing.
Yes, it's falling kind of apart, right? It's not as attractive as it was at first. It looks like mush. Somebody would look at this and say, what is this? This does not look like a good soup here.
Well, I wish we could give samples to everyone so we could prove them wrong.
Yeah. Okay, now it's ready. All right, so what I'm going to do is I have one of these little machines. It's kind of a mixer, hand mixer type. They have heavy-duty one for major jobs. This is more a household type, okay, which does the job for something like this. You can also use a blender if you want, but the blender has the tendency of making it softer, and liquider. So, especially liquider. I don't like that too much. I'd rather use something like this. Again, this is hot.
I'm just curious, I want to see the end of this so we can see what that's like. So the blade is fairly sharp, but not razor sharp.
No, not razor sharp. And it'll spin very quickly and basically mash this pretty much. So we are about now to puree our soup. Now we have to watch out those holes here, so we want to make sure that they're below the liquid level, because if they're not, it's going to splatter us.
Not a good thing.
Not a good thing. So we're just going to go here, move it around a little bit, make it easy on the machine.
So it looks like you're finding a new spot and then just driving it straight down.
Yes, exactly. And it's going to get easier, but at first it's got a lot, so I don't want to burn the motor of this. Now it takes a little while again.
Now how do you know when you're done? What's the indicator?
Well, basically, see, I'm still seeing pieces in there. See, that's no good. So I'm going to just keep going until it's fairly smooth, but you'll never get it totally smooth, okay?
So you're just going for near perfection.
Right. At this point, I'm not too happy with the thickness yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it cook a little longer until it reduces a little more. Okay, we're done here. What I'm looking for is the flavor. Well, what you need to know is, what did you put in there? Do you remember what we put in there, John?
Oh my gosh, you had the potatoes, the broccoli, garlic, onion, and am I missing something?
Some chicken stock.
Oh, chicken stock.
Major ingredients. Okay, so now the flavor that is probably going to be the most emphasized is the broccoli, of course, because it's the main ingredient. So you're going to have a pretty strong smell of broccoli. So what I'm looking for is something milder than that strong flavor of broccoli. We know it's broccoli soup, but I don't want it to be too strong. It's no good. And the kids won't like it. I guarantee you that.
Yes.
So we're gonna try to eliminate that strength of flavor by basically cooking it longer. Okay. So the more you cook, the more flavor you lose. Okay. It evaporates. Simple process of boiling water. It evaporates. So that's what's going to happen. The flavor is going to disappear. Now, if you leave it too long, also what happens is your liquid's going to evaporate, and then it's going to become very thick. So there's a balance between the thickness and the flavor that will naturally happen. It's a matter of knowing when to stop it. Okay, let's, you know what, let's check on our potato, John. I think we might be done now. Oh yeah, beautiful. Nice and golden, look at that.
Now, do we get to sample those like the green beans?
Well, not
I'm
yet.
hoping so.
I don't want to get burned. It's a little too hot. But
yes.
What I like to do at this point is let them sit a little bit, to cool down a little bit.
Right.
Now, if you're going to eat them right away, you can serve them immediately. Now, potato, I don't know if you feel that way, but I do. Don't taste good if you don't add a little salt.
I like a little bit.
Just a little bit, not much, but just a touch makes it a little different. So that's when you want to do it right after the cooking.
They brown just perfect.
Just a little bit, and you see it's not much, but it's going to make a little different when it comes to flavor. That's it, 2 pinch. That's not much, Don. A small pinch, small fingers. And then what I like to do is add some parsley to it. It's a nice touch, and it's a nice coloring touch. So when I place them in, let's say, a container for later on for my clients, is I do this. You see how kind of it looks nice this way. It's nice and golden, it's ready. But watch what a little pinch of this does. Suddenly it becomes a little more festive. Doesn't take much. That's it.
That's what food is all about.
Now let's check on our soup here. Look what's happening to our soup.
Oh, wow.
The color has changed. It's a lot deeper now. Have you noticed?
Yes.
It's a lot darker. That's the cooking process. It's very well happening here. We still have all these thick ingredients here. And it's thickening a little bit too. Right? So we're changing. Things are happening which are good.
Is it pretty hot, or do I need to wait a moment?
It's very hot.
Okay, I'm going to hang on a second.
Very hot. I can handle hot, but I don't know you.
Well, you can really see the change in the consistency when it's like this. Oh, that's good. I like it.
It needs, the flavor is good. The broccoli flavor is starting to get a little milder. But it needs to reduce a little more. It's still a little too liquidy at this point. So we're going to let it reduce more. And then how we're going to finish the soup is very simple. Once it reduces to the thickness I'm looking for, and I'm going to give you an indication. When you dip your fork in here, I want this, you see how clear the juice is, kind of the liquid? I can almost see through. It's too clear to me. It has to get very dark, almost the color of the head of the broccoli over here. Almost that color, almost. So that's when I know it's reduced enough, it's thick enough. So for the soup, I have 2 ways of thickening the soup to make it taste even a little bit better. Okay. Again, we're concerned with fat, so we don't want to use cream at that point. What we're going to use is either a light sour cream, which, if you look in here, has 40 calories per 2 tablespoons. Okay, or a yogurt, which I don't want to show you necessarily the brand, but any low-fat yogurt. However, certain type of yogurt are thickening better than others. Okay. Also, be aware that the flavor, usually yogurt have sugar added. You don't want to add sugar in your soup either. That's not a good thing. So we're going to use now, in order to add this to the soup and to avoid the separation of the cream from the milk, we need to actually add a little cornstarch to it, which acts as a thickener, holding it together. And it's a good trick to have when you thicken anything with low-fat ingredients. We have a little cornstarch. Again, cornstarch you can use in various ways. but never use it by itself like this to add to a hot liquid. It will become a glob. Thick,
it just doesn't break
down.
Yeah.
So you mix it always with some water or liquid. You can mix it with chicken stock as long as it's cold, nothing hot. So in this case, I'll just add a little water. That's all I want. How much water? Well, just enough to thicken what I have. Okay, let's see. See what's happening here. We have a lot of color change here. It's getting darker.
Yeah, it sure is.
Okay, it's really starting to get
starting
better.
To even out.
It's evening out. It's getting thicker. You notice now. We notice more the pieces that we puree. The color is a lot darker too. You cannot almost see through like we did earlier. So I'm about getting there now. So I'm going to thicken it a little bit. And how much you thicken is also another big question. I struggle honestly with this for a long time, where you have recipe telling you put 2 tablespoons of thickener or 3 tablespoons. Well, what they don't take in consideration is how much liquid you have that could have be rendered through the cooking process. So it's not a good idea to assume that whatever amount I might give you to the recipe, that is the right amount. I might tell you in this recipe you're gonna need about 2 ounces, and actually maybe 3 ounces, or 2 tablespoons is gonna do the trick.
And again, that's the trial and error.
It's the trial and error. So I'm just gonna put a little bit, and like this.
And how soon will we notice an effect?
Well, you're gonna know immediately when it goes back to boiling. As soon as it boils, you're gonna see starting to thicken. Okay, John, I think we're ready here. The soup is certainly thickened, right?
Very good.
And the color is just perfect. You see, we're not clear anymore. We're kind of dark.
Yeah, it's definitely got darker.
So now we're done enough with thickening. Let's start to add a little bit of our sour cream. Now, how much you add is up to you. How much calorie you want. I consider 1 tablespoon per person is plenty. So I'm going to do about half of that. I think it's too much. So I'm just going to do about 4 tablespoons for all this. That's enough to me.
I can tell already what that's going to do to it, and how the flavor's going to change.
The flavor's going to change. It's going to make it smoother, also to the taste. There, and it's going to change the color a little bit. So it looks a little bit like cream suddenly again, like a cream soup, but without all that butter and flour. And the finished touch is again to add what we have kept away. Remember, I like a little crunchiness to it. So what that's going to do also is give a little more flavor, even more. Now what I need to do is add a little, again, I like some parsley. It gives a little flavor. It also gives a nice touch of color. It offset a little bit the darker color in it. A few pinch, 4 or 5, that's all you need, not that many. So I think we're done with our soup, and I think you've been very good
I keep eyeing those potatoes.
You can go and try one of those potato jam. Go ahead. No finger.
No fingers, okay.
We remember, so we're going to go pick one with a
which
fork.
one? They all look good.
Well, whichever one you want.
Okay. And
they should not be too hot now. They should be kind of cooled down. And you should be all right. Are they kind of tender, crunchy? And we're going to now go finally to our meat and prepare our New York steak. So let's get going on that.
All right.
We need basically for our recipe for 6 people, 6 New York steak, 1 shallot, 4 tablespoons of peppercorn. We need 3 tablespoons of cognac, a little more than a cup of red wine, and finally again our sour cream to give it a nice smooth richness, but it's not mandatory. What we're going to do is sear this meat first. Alright, so we're going to bring our pan very hot. It is very important. You cannot sear meat if the pan is cold and if the oil that you're going to put in there is not hot enough. Otherwise it's going to basically baste in the fat, and you don't want that. It won't taste as good. So we're heating our pan here, and gee, I still have some of that flavored oil. There's nothing wrong for using it at this point.
Sure.
It can add a nice touch flavor over here. So I can add about, for 4 steak here, I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon to 2, no more. And here for 2, I'm just having a couple of teaspoons. That's it. No, that's it. That's all you need. Pretty much, honestly, I like to use flavored oil a lot because it's a good way to add a touch of flavor to your meat or your chicken, your fish. Now be careful because things splatter a little bit.
Yeah, it's flying.
Yeah, so you got to be careful a little bit. This one's gonna have to squeeze. Now we're searing that end. That's what we want to do.
Oh, okay.
Now we can.
Man, that smells good.
Remember,
wow.
we can pepper that side. Right here. We didn't do.
That's really good.
All right. Now I think this guy might be ready to turn again. This is what I'm looking for. It's a nice brown color.
Yeah.
See, scorch a little bit. Again, it has to do, we didn't have much oil in there, but that's okay. No big deal. See the nice brown color that's forming. That's called sear. That means it's going to keep all the juices inside the meat instead of going out and become hard. So we're going to add a little cognac for flavor here. There we go. Now watch out. Okay, now we're going to add some wine.
And what type of wine is this?
This is a red wine Cabernet. There we go, we flambe. Yeah, all right. Very happy now.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Now we're going to put them in the oven to let them finish to cook. In the medium level.
All right, right in the middle.
And this is where it's going to allow the meat to cook even, basically.
Okay.
And we have here, to finish, we're going to make the sauce and we'll be done, is we're going to add some demi-glace. Demi-glace is a very strong flavor sauce which is made out of bones and basically flavors such as tomatoes, onion, carrot, celery, and bones of animal. Okay, in this case it's beef. It's a beef demi-glace and veal. So there's bones of veal and bones of beef in it, and it's cooked for 8-12 hours and reduced to very small amount. And it's very thick, as you can see. It's an
interesting combination of ingredients.
Yes, yes, and it's much thicker than would be chicken stock or beef stock. Beef stock is kind of liquidy, as you notice. This is very syrupy. So how to measure when my meat is done? We have different ways. We have a lot of thermometer. This is a word I have problem with.
You do fantastic.
I practice for 3 hours with my husband and son. We have this type, which for a blind person like me, I like this lately because the numbers are much larger, so it's a lot easier to see. This is what most professional chefs in the kitchen will have. They'll put them here and they always walk around with it. It's a mandatory thing. You have to have one with you all the time by the health department because you're supposed to check your temperature of food all the time. So it gives you the same number here. For people who are not too sure about what temperature for what meat, this is a good thermometer because it tells you here, it tells you poultry, beef, pork, smoked ham. It tells you what's the temperature minimum you're supposed to reach to avoid anyone to get sick. So it's a very good one. You have some other gadget like this lately that came up where you can just poke the meat in their price over here and they'll tell you what level it is. Oh, and it says rare, medium, well, and well for pork and poultry. Right. I use this a lot for barbecue. It's easy. I just poke it in there. It's a lot easier. Then you have this kind, which is the worst kind. And the reason is the thickness of it. So when you poke, you literally make a hole in your meat. And you're basically going to get the juice out totally out of your meat and you end up with a hard meat. It's not a good idea to use that kind. It's only good maybe to check the temperature of the liquid or something. Makes sense. But even though it's made for meat, it's not a good one. Meat, how to measure the temperature of your meat? There's two ways. This way, the professional way that we establish after a lot of years of experience. You don't, a new personal chef would have difficulty to do this, and I encourage to use this rather than anything else. But the method that you can start to use for fun at home and learn how to do it, and when you get comfortable switch to it, is the finger. Okay, we have 5 fingers, hopefully we do, and if you cross those 2 fingers, I forgot what they call it in English, index and thumb, and then you touch here or here, you can feel a difference here, John. This is kind of soft, this is very soft.
Oh yeah.
Now, okay. Now do this. It's a little different now. It's hard, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna keep those 2 fingers together, and then what's gonna happen? We're gonna switch those fingers around. This is for rare. If you touch the meat, this is rare.
Okay.
You go to the next finger, touch here. You'll see it get tougher. That's medium rare to medium. And the last one here is really hard. If you press hard, make pressure on your thumb here. This is hard. That's like well done. So this is how we use it to do a lot of steak. We don't have time to poke every single one. But here, let's be safe and let's check our meat. Again, our little one might have cooked faster.
Boy, if it's done, that went very quickly.
All right. Let's throw this here. You want to put it in the thickest part.
And how long does it take to come up to get your reading?
Well,
let's see.
If this works, it should come very quickly. It looks like we're about 130. Let me check here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need just a little more. And I think we're done here. I'm going to leave it like this. I think that'll be enough for now. I think it's just right. And now we're going to do the sauce, which is the important part. Everybody can cook pretty much a steak, but the sauce is what's going to make it outstanding. I'm going to finish this wine in here. What I want to bring here is to basically bring this to a boil. And I'm going to concentrate the flavor and eliminate that winey flavor. We don't want that. We want it to suddenly disappear and mix well with the cognac and the meat flavor. So what I do is I deglaze the pan. This is the process. The deglaze the pan means that I added a liquid to the bottom of my pan to bring out all the particles that were attached to the bottom. And I'm going to scrape everything, all the sides, because this is where all the flavor is. And if you don't do that, you're going to miss a lot out of the flavor. So here we're starting to have,
it's getting a little darker.
Again, a little darker change. My pot is still hot. I need this glove. I'm going to keep track here. It's going to happen very quickly. It's not going to thicken much. Again, it's pretty much liquid. Okay, John, we reduced enough here. We concentrated. You can see the change of color. See how beautiful burgundy, deep color. This is what you're looking for. You reduced about 2/3 of the amount of wine, okay, and the flavor of the wine is gone. So now we're going to add our demi-glace. We have our demi-glace that we talked about earlier. This is what makes that sauce. Again, it's going to change of color. You want to bring it to a boil. Okay, so we're done. So now I'm going to just add my sour cream. Again, you can stop it right there. It's a beautiful sauce too. And if you want a little different flavor, add the mushroom right there too. And that's enough. Because no need to add more water. It doesn't add any more flavor to it. I'm not interested in doing that. Okay. Again, you can mix it with a little cornstarch. It's especially true with yogurt. Do not add it like this without cornstarch. Sour cream holds a little bit better. You don't have to necessarily do it. All right, and again, I like to add a little bit of parsley to this for color. You see how nicely it makes it? Yeah, and we're ready to go. And what I would do when I'm ready to serve, I just put the steak right into it. Bring it to a boil, it's ready to go. As we talked before about presentation, here's an idea, simple idea. You place your steak to the edge of the plate, and if you pile up, bring it up. Height is very important, pretty much in your presentation. And your green beans are on the opposite side of your steak. Try to give it a round position here because of the round plate. If you had a square plate or a triangle or different plate, you would play with that. So it works with this presentation, and I add a little bit of parsley and some lemon zest with a little lemon juice on the green beans. As far as quantity, for a personal chef, it's very important. We discussed that in the manual many times. You would only spoon here 2 tablespoons of your sauce and no more. Why? Because every tablespoon has a lot of calorie. So what I would do is just add my tablespoon right here, right to the back here, like right there. I have my 2 tablespoons, and that's plenty enough to flavor. As far as the vegetable quantity, you can pretty much eat as much as you want vegetable. They're very low in calories. Less starch would be appropriate, but we know for balancing our basically sugar level, we need a little starch every meal. So you can have the choice between a potato or a piece of bread is about the right amount. I would say half a potato to a small red potato is the amount that you want to have, no more. Well, I hope you enjoy this cooking session, and I thank you for sharing my kitchen with you, and to all your health. Well, now we are going to go through our knife session and understand about knife and their uses. We have different knives, and I'm going to start with the most important one, which is the chef knife. There's different types of chef knife, basically by their size as well as by the way they're made. What you want to look for is basically a very strong, sturdy knife, where most of the weight has a tendency to go towards the tang, which is the back part of the knife. You want to see a blade that goes right through the tang, like this one. You see it's a 1 unit. They will last much longer. They won't break here in this section right here, like when you put pressure a lot in that area. And this is probably one of the best knives that you can find right now. Quality-wise, you're looking for a different kind of metal. You have a high carbon, which is very sharp and very good quality knife. However, it has a tendency to corrode and to discolor food, especially with acidic type food and onion. Then you have a stainless steel quality, which is what you have here, which does not corrode or react with anything, and it's probably the most standard knife that you can find. But finally, you have the high carbon stainless steel combination of metal, which is very good also knife. However, very expensive, probably one of the most expensive on the market. This chef knife in general will be used for a lot of application, a lot of cutting vegetable, fruit, meat, prepare a lot of things. That will be probably your most popular knife, okay? Then you go to what we call a utility knife. This one will be more used for cutting, let's say, a big watermelon, cut some lettuces. And then you have paring knife. I have 2 types here. They go from 2 to 3 inch long. This is a longer one. This is just 2 inch and almost 3 inch here. They're used to basically go to the smaller job. If you need to cut off the tomato little green part, that's what you would use. Maybe use it to cut the green part of a strawberry, things like that, small work. Then you have what you call right here a boning knife. As you can see, the knife here is very sharp at the end here and then narrow right to the pointy end here. It's basically, the name boning knife basically tell you what to do is to debone anything such as chicken, meat. Then you have a serrated, well, that's this one. That's a serrated knife. As you can see, it's serrated right here. It has very sharp angle, triangle type blade. It's used mostly for cutting bread as well as for cutting cakes. You have here a slicer. This is used for slicing very thin your turkey for Thanksgiving, or a roast beef that you want very thinly because it tastes a lot better than thick pieces. And then here you have what they call the butcher knife. Not used that much in the kitchen anymore, except for very limited restaurant and hotel business. It's basically to cut off big bone the butcher used to use it to cut pieces, and we don't do that since we have a lot of pre-cut pieces now in the market. Here is a simple carrot shredder. It's easy, you know. You want something nice and sturdy like this one. It has a good setting. There's a lot of different types, but I would recommend this kind. It's very sturdy and you don't slip too much cutting. Now, this last piece here is called a steel. It is used to sharpen your knife, and you can basically use it in different circumstances with different knives. In the case of a serrated knife, you do not want to use this because it's not made for serrated knife. Barely use it also with this slicing knife. All the other knives can go through here. So I'm going to now demonstrate to you how to basically sharpen a knife. And there's two techniques, and it's all a matter of how comfortable you can be with those techniques. I personally like the technique where I'm putting it down like this. It's very sturdy. I don't have any place to go or slide, and it gives me a safety net for me to avoid any injuries. What you need to be concerned about is where your fingers, your index and your thumb, are staying on the knife. So we don't want to end up underneath here because that's where we might get cut. And we always want to keep those fingers above the edge. So now what we want to do is keep our knife to 20 degrees angle. So this is 90 degrees right here. So if you think, okay, that's 90 degrees, let's go halfway, that's 40 here. Okay, now I'm going to go 20. So half of that again, I'm about right here. What you start to do is go at the end of the knife, right at the bottom, close to your fingers, and slide it down slowly like this. You want to do it 4 or 5 times. Let's see, 4, and let's go one more, 5 times, no more. If you do more, you possibly damage the edge of the knife, which you don't want to do. Then you're going to have to make a trip right to the store again and ask them to sharpen them again. You have 2 sides on the knife, as we can see. So I did one side, now I need to do the other side. I can do here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this should be sharp enough. One way to check, take your finger slightly, don't push it in, of course. Just see, oh yes, that's very sharp, it did the job, that's enough. What you want to do is wash your knife every time after you sharpen it, because now you created a little edge right to the end of the blade, and you want to make sure that that will not go later into your food. So now the other method is, a lot of chefs use that method, is up in the air. I don't like this too much because I feel like things are moving too much, and I feel like I can slip too fast and end up here. And I would say for somebody who's not used to sharpen knives yet, do not use that technique. Over here, the steel, you have a little area to protect your fingers, to put right there, right behind. Now you put this towards, like if you want to put an X right there, you got an X right in that position. And we're going to do the same. We're going to move it from the end to the front 4 times. It's very simple. Same thing from the other side. My 20 degrees. I keep my 20 degrees. That's it. Now we are having very good sharp knife, and we're going to be ready to demonstrate how we cut with those wonderful knives. So we have onions, potato we can start with. The onion we're going to learn how to basically dice as well as slice. First we have to remove the outside basically of the onion. So this is where I can use my utility knife, it's a lot easier. I want to remove the first layer. What we can do is cut it in half. If I call for a half, that's a half. If I cut again, that's going to be a quarter that you would see in those recipes. Now, in order to cut this and make dice out of it, it's very simple. Consider the height of the onion. Start to go down across, keeping the knife in this angle, kind of down. Why? Because that way we avoid possibly to cut our fingers. It's going down rather than right straight to my fingers. Same thing, a second cut on the top. Same thing, and I move my finger a little bit around, make sure it's a little slippery, so I'm careful. Now we're going to turn it right facing me. The trunk of the onion is always on the other side of myself, and I don't want to cut right through. I'm going to make a fairly wide dice so you can see better than a small dice. So I cut nice slice this way. Now I'm going to cut the other way, and what's going to happen? The onion's going to start to break and fall in pieces, and I'm going to have my dice. Let's see, I need to dice a potato. Well, what I need to do first is I need to make a very flat, sturdy area for me to work with. See, if I make it even on the bottom, very flat, it's not moving around, it's not going to create a situation where possibly I could get hurt. So now what I want to do is make a rectangular, even on all sides. So I'm going to do this way, cut each edge. So now I have pretty much an even rectangular. So to make a dice, I can consider, if you take the potato and take it in half, it would be a little wide for a dice. So I want to split this in three to have, like, if I'm making Brian potato or something like that, I want them a little small, but not too small and not too big. So I'm going to cut it in third. Now I have 3 slices that I cut one side. Now I'm going to cut those 3 slices the other way here. Keep them in line. They're a little slippery, so watch out. Again, I'm going a third. There we go. Now we got those 3. Right now it could be fries. We made fries if we like to, but we were talking of making dice. So now what you can do, you can pile them up again and then continue cutting here, depending how big or how long you want them. I want them just like a nice dice right there. What we can do with a potato is, I showed you how to make the fries earlier. Let's see how from the same point, let's see how we can make some julienne. This time I'm going to cut them a lot thinner because I want something thinner. I'm going to go a lot smaller. Again, it depends the size of your potato. In this case, I made 5 cuts right there, about this thickness. There we go. Again, we can make them even smaller, but I keep them a little larger for the camera, otherwise you won't see. But we can split them even more and make them a lot smaller, which would be julienne, which would be this size. Again, you'll make your cut a lot smaller. Now let's see what we can do with vegetable and carrots. You can just cut them, chop. This is chopping, no big deal. You can give it a different inclination, like an Asian style. So you're going to go this way, little angle, and you can do the same thing with your vegetable here. Here we go. You can make them thin or fairly large. Now what do we do about some peppers, some squash? What do we do with the squash? Well, squash, all you need to be concerned about, it's been cleaned from the inside. There's been some seeds that have been removed, and all you need to do is worry about the outside here. So you want to cut, use the middle part or the end part because it's strong, it's hard, so you want to control well. Here we go. And you just slice the end and remove just the outside. Try to avoid to remove too much of the meat part because that's the good part. So keep it thin. Now we have a pepper. Pepper, you want to cut this hand, possibly this hand, unless you need to keep it for stuffing or something, then don't cut the bottom. And then we want to remove the inside here. You can keep it whole and clean it by hand like this, or if you don't really care, you can cut in half like this and clean it with your paring knife. You want to remove that kind of part inside. It's kind of bitter and will give bad taste to your food, so remove it. Make it nice clean cut like this. Again, here we can do different things. We can julienne, very thin, right there. We can give it a thicker, right there, bâtonnet look, or strip, whatever you want to call it. We have kind of porcini, shiitake type mushroom, and then you have a plain Paris mushroom. What most people don't know is, if you want a more refined taste, you have to remove the skin of the mushroom. I know a lot of you are going to be like, what? It's very surprising, but yeah, we do that a lot in France, and I always do, frankly, every time I cook with it, or even put it in my salad. So what you do is very simple. You use a paring knife, very short, sharp knife, and you have the top part and the bottom part. What you want to go is around the bottom part first. Put your knife again to maybe 20 degrees, 30, and go around and slip it down next to the skin. Now, to remove this part, skin, you have to go and search inside here. As you notice, if I just go around here, I can remove just that part there easily without really cutting into the mushroom yet. Now, I didn't destroy the trunk or nothing. So now I'm going under there and bringing slowly with the edge of my knife that skin. And it'll pop out as easy as it looks. I scratch a little bit. If some of the mushroom goes with it, it's okay. Same thing again, faster here. We're going to clean this one. Most mushroom will need that, except certain type of fancy mushroom like morels. You don't want to do that. Don't touch them. There we go. Here's another clean mushroom right there. And what I do to make sure it doesn't turn kind of green, I'm going to put a little lemon juice, simply like that. Turn brown, not green. Just like that. And it will stay like this for a couple of hours without changing color and turning brown. Asparagus requires special treatment. Asparagus need to be treated carefully because the tip of the asparagus is very fragile. So be extra cautious when handling asparagus. Always try to keep the tip together. One guide, I had to keep part of that asparagus, part of it is good and part is not good. This part over here is the tender part. This one is the fiber type. And it's not good to eat. It's very, very bad. So what we do is cut it. Again, I have a system to know how to make it the right length all the time. I use my finger as a guide, and I cut it right here. Now, you can leave it as is, like this. Use a couple more for guidelines here. Okay, boom, there. And you keep going and do all the series if you like. Now, you can leave them as this, in that stage, but if you want to go more fancy, and that's the way I like it better because it tastes better, is now you're going to remove part of this little mounting edge here. So what you need is something very sharp like this, and you go right to the top of the tip, right there, like right there, and we're going to slide it down slowly and remove that part. Okay, so this one, again, we can go slice this way. I can make it thicker if I like. Again, nice thick one for barbecue. That's what you want, the thickness. Because otherwise, if you make it too thin, they will fall apart very quickly. With celery, you can do a lot of different things. First, I cut always the edge. So now, what I can do again, I can do strip. That's easy again. I can go that sideways again. Same way, easy, depending what size I want. Or I can slice it this way. You go through the center part here. And I'm going to cut it right in the middle, right there. I can cut it again through the middle, and that way it'll give me some nice dice. Again, green onion. What do we do with green onion? We always want to remove the end part. Always clean them too. And usually the end part over here too a little bit, even it out. And here I can again do some kind of large chopping, or thin, small. I can almost make it a lot smaller too. I can cut it in half. You see, I put my knife steady here and push down here, but keep my finger away. And now I can make it very small. So you can go this way. Move your finger along. Keep your finger tucked underneath. Ah, leek. How to deal with leek. They look really weird. Nobody knows what the... That's kind of strange. So a lot of people often ask me, well, how do I cut this? How do I prepare this? Do I need to wash it? Yes, you do. So first we're going to cut the end part here. You can again cut slice. Depends what you want to do, the application, whatever the recipe is calling for. That part over here, the darker green part, is very bitter. and it's good for soup, but it's not good for refined julienne type to accompany a piece of fish, by example. You would use only the white part. The white part is very tender, sweet compared to that part. This part here, I wanted to cut it and make a nice julienne. As you noticed, there's a lot of dirt everywhere, so you have to wash it. Now this green part here, I usually, if I put it in my soup, I chop it. That's all I do. I don't care how size-wise, I just chop it. So earlier we saw a little bit how we were doing with again, the garlic. The garlic, you can do different things. Garlic, again, there's the method of crushing the garlic. You don't crush it too much, if just a little touch, slight touch over the knife. Watch my hand. My hand is on the top of the knife like this, and as you notice, it's away from the edge of the knife so I don't cut myself. I'm using basically this part of my hand to do this. That's it, right there. Then you use your paring knife, and again you go right through it, just like that, and you remove the skin easily. You can crush it, and that requires a little more carefulness. Here is I tap it again with the edge here so I do not slip towards the edge, and it's really crushed, and look how easy it takes. If I want to just chop basically my garlic, I have the knife up sitting on the edge, and I'm going to bring it down towards that end part. Again, my fingers are on top here, they're not underneath, they're here, safe. And I'm going to bring the knife up and down using my left hand as a level. Here we go. To control the knife so it doesn't slip away from me. Now I can slice this. If I want to slice and have like a slivery looking, again, right there. See, I got a nice slice. And that's something you might look for when you want to do a certain type of presentation. Now we have a shallot. The shallot is family of the onion family, kind of. And we're going to remove the skin. Again, we go through the same process we do with onion. Is we're going to remove that first layer that is. We can do anything with that one. Here's what I do here because I'm trying to be careful. It's very uneven. So what I do is I put the knife right in the middle of the shallot, put my finger on the outside right here, bend a little bit over like this so it really stay away from the knife, and I'm carefully going to push it down. That's it. Now I'm safe. Now I can shred, dice, again the same way we did with onion, the same situation, or I can chop it very small if I want. Now how do we deal with herbs? We have to deal with herbs a little more carefully. Herbs are fragile. You do not want to basically bruise them. That's an expression we use for herbs, is bruise them. I always spend the time to remove the edge no matter what, because it's bitter and I do not like that flavor in my food. So I basically go to the end of it and remove that bitterness part. When using herbs, you'll notice I'm piling them up nicely here. Usually you want to take the largest one, it's easier to control. Then those little ones, you chop the little one. Now in order to chiffonade this, what I need to do is roll it up. So I'm just going to go like this, roll it up like you roll a cigar or something, or your shots. Now I'm putting it down and I'm going to go across this way and cut it. Small or large, it's up to you, it's your style. I would recommend a fairly medium size. And we have right here what we call a chiffonade, which is the most common cut used for basically herbs. Here we have rosemary. It smells really nice. But how do we deal with this? Not all of it is good to use. Again, we have the trunk that is very bitter. So I don't like to use it. What you want to do is you basically want to go from the top of the trunk here and go down and push all those little right there, right here. And now you're left with the trunk. All right. Now, if you were to put this in your food, it tastes kind of bad, and it's very strong flavor, so you want to minimize, and you're going to use very little. So what you want to do is mince it, what we call mince, which is very tiny, small pieces. And so you're going to have to go through this. Some people use a mortar, you know, one of those balls with a mortar, and you crush and crush, but I find this method a lot faster. Again, I use the back of the knife, and you see I'm getting there to go right through. I keep pushing in. That's it. It didn't take me that long, and now you have a nice powder right there. And you can mix it with other herbs, of course, the same way. We're going to mince a little bit of parsley. You can either spend the time, and it takes a lot of time, by just having the head, but it's a nicer cut, better, less bitterness, because we remove again the trunk, which is bitter a little bit. And then again, we're going to use our knife and go right through. Different method, you can go this way, or I personally kind of like this way. Okay, again, we're going to do the mincing. Here we go. When you mince a lot of parsley, do it all at once. That way you don't have to go through this over and over during your cooking session. There we go. Now you can mince it as small as you want, and you're going to continue doing this as much as you want. So we talked about making a fruit salad earlier. So I'm going to quickly show you how to prepare the fruits and make a nice fruit salad, which is a good idea for a personal chef to leave to your client. So we got some kiwi, mango, papaya, and apple. So for that, again, I'm going to use now my different knife. I'm going to use my utility knife, this one, because it's smaller, it's more comfortable, more sturdy. Now you have different ways of preparing your apple. You can remove the skin with this. It's easy, safe, fast, and you don't remove too much of the meat. Or you can go like this and do it this way, which the other way I figure you can know how to do it. But you can do it this way too, and what you do is cut the end part and go along here. With a nice sharp knife you can do that. And then I can go like this. So what we do for dicing is we want that half, and again we're going to cut. I'm controlling the size of my dice again. Same cut, about even everywhere, and even here. So now I have a nice even cut. Again, a little lemon juice to avoid the apple to turn brown. So I just spread usually half a lemon on there. I mix it a little bit, and that way your apple will stay overnight without turning brown, which is not very appetizing otherwise. Kiwi, there's a hard part, so go around it, turn it like I did. This part is pretty soft generally. Again, we have to remove that skin here. Here we go. So we got one, and always cut a kiwi in quarters like this, and keep them fairly big sizes. They have a tendency of getting mushy when you cut them too small, so I just do a third. That's it. Keep them big enough. There. Now this is a little larger. You notice my knife, so I'm not so comfortable using that one, so I'm going to use a little larger, the one we were talking about, the utility knife. Now here you have seeds that you need to remove. Again, you can use your finger to cut this. I like to cut it in 4. That's the method I find. You can cut it like this, but I find that a lot easier, less problem. So now I just go like this. Okay, I'm going to leave this. It's very mushy too, so keep large pieces. This is very soft too. So let's see, we remove the skin. Now this one is a little more peculiar, because you'll see at the end of it, after I cut it, there's a big pit, really big. And so you have to try to figure where it is inside it to cut around it. Let's see where I reach. Oh, now I'm right into it, so I know I gotta go short. Right here. Right there, see? Right there, here it is. Now most of the rest here, I can cut here until I feel where, it's right there. It has a weird form. It's right there, so when you feel it, don't cut into it. Then from this, I can again do my dice. I'm going to do a nice dice here. Large piece. Put over there. Now you refrigerate this at least for a couple of hours before somebody should eat it, because fruit tastes a lot better nice and cold. Again, you can put a little bit of lemon here to preserve it. You can use lime or orange juice. Lime is very good with this type of exotic fruits. All right, a couple more pieces here and we're almost done. And for the coup de grace, we're gonna add some nice healthy blueberries right in there that you would nicely display. And I think we are pretty much done here. I hope you enjoy this session on the cooking and knife skill, and we wish you good health.